and welcome back to Stress Less, Joy More, all about well-being with Paula and
Doris.
today we're so happy to be joined by Lubna Forzley. And Lubna is a certified practitioner of Compassionate Inquiry, an independent circle leader, and she is also the founder of Stories, a digital storytelling and coaching company. Lubna helps leaders live authentic, purpose-driven lives by aligning their external story with their internal one, while navigating burnout, self-esteem, and stress with balance and self-compassion. In addition to coaching, Lubna is an author, a speaker, and a moderator who has facilitated virtual healing conferences featured globally with renowned names such as Dr. Gabor Mate, Sophie Gregoire Trudeau, and Dr. Sat Dharam Kaur, and Dr. Caroline Leaf. Welcome, Lubna.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us, Lubna. And I remember you from our gatherings in our Compassionate Inquiry annual conferences where we met. And I always, those events always bring a lot of joy to me because they're just amazing. But I also, when I think of you, I just see this radiant light and joy entering the room, and you just shine full of wisdom and presence. So I just enjoyed always speaking to you, sharing with you, and I would like to check in with you. I wonder if you always felt like that, or it was that also maybe part of your journey, how you came to this beautiful presence you're sharing with us now.
Thank you so much for that, and it's always nice to hear compliments. It's great for my ego. um, I've always felt, ever since I was a child, that there was something in me, that there was a light. So I've always felt that. I wouldn't say the same about joy at all. To be honest, it was the opposite of joy, actually, because I grew up in a war zone. And much of my childhood was a childhood of a lot of sadness and seeing a lot of difficulty right in front of my eyes. So I wouldn't say that I projected joy throughout my life, but I would say that I've always been in touch with, a form of, I would say, light in me. And I think that that has changed with time. When I was younger, I feel that I'm much wiser now, but when I was younger, I wanted to be the light for other people. Like I was so like obsessed with that. And I think with time, as time evolved, I've changed, I've shifted. I want people to see their own light through my light or through me rather than see my light. So the emphasis at the beginning of my life was very focused on me. See my light, see my light, see my light. And now it's like, no, 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 don't see my light. I want you to see your own light through me, if I could, offer that. And if I can't offer that, then find a way to see your own light in your own life.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And also those two sides of sharing the light. One, see the light coming from war area, and then being wise that you can see your own light when you see it in others. Would you be open to maybe share, we still face war even nowadays, which is for me quite shocking for the 21st century. But maybe we can also learn from that. How do you see that maybe your childhood experience of war affected you or affected your life in your journey?
Yeah, it is very unfortunate that we still see wars, and we will probably continue to see wars because wars make money for people, and that's a sad reality. It's beyond just what is visible to the eye. There's a lot behind the scenes that goes into that. But my childhood, I remember that as a child, And I always say the story that I used to look outside the window every day and see buildings falling and people dying in front of me. And I would, ask myself so many questions as a child. What is the point of all of this? Will I make it to tomorrow? If I do make it to tomorrow, how could I make my mark on this world? So these questions became my compass every single day of my life. And I've lived with these questions. I've chosen careers based on these questions. I've chosen clients based on these questions. Um, it has, war did affect me in a negative way, but it also affected me in a very positive way. It gave me a sense of purpose. It gave me a clear compass to guide my life. It gave me a sense of faith because when you go through war, you actually realize that you have control over nothing, literally
Mm.
nothing. I cannot control anything in this moment. The only thing that I can control are my thoughts and my connection with the universe or with God, whatever you choose to call it. It taught me to have a lot of faith, and I think that that's beautiful. So I choose to take away from it the positive, I would say, and to use my life as a message.
Wow. Yeah, I got goosebumps with that. And it really resonated how even seeing my girls, when they learn about different wars in the history, I think kids see the world very purely. She's always like, Mom, why do we need that? That doesn't make sense. I'm sensing from perspective of children, it's very clear that some things are just confusing to understand. And I love how you came out with that clarity and purpose. I do wonder, do you think on your personal healing journey, was that enough in a way to come out of the war with that resilience? Or was part of your journey also healing the wounds that war left in you uh, as a child?
I think my resilience is built in, and I think that it's built in many people who have gone through war, especially like in my culture. I was born and raised in Lebanon. And if you could, every country sort of has its own word that defines it. For example, in Canada, I would say it's kindness. In Lebanon, I would say it's resilience. And it's part of like the DNA of every Lebanese person, more or less. So I would say that my resilience has been built in me, but my healing journey started at a very late age. It didn't start at a young age. Um, I think, after I left that environment, I was focused on my career and building my career and then starting a family and what comes with that. And it's only when I got to a certain point where I actually stepped back and started my healing journey. And COVID accelerated that. I think COVID and moved back to Canada accelerated that healing journey. And then I'm the type of person who kind of goes all in. Like I'm a Taurus, and it's either all or nothing. There's no in between. And so when I started my healing journey, I was like, that's it, I'm all in, and I went all in, and it has really helped me. Yeah, I think get over a lot of the things that happened in my childhood, but also see some of the positive that happened in my childhood. And I think that that journey helped me see life through a different lens. So, to give you an example, I remember from Compassionate Inquiry one video. Like when we go through Compassionate Inquiry, we watch a lot of videos, but there is always one that, kind of sticks. And I remember one of them that stuck in my mind of Dr. Gabor speaking to a woman. And she kept saying, I want to change the world. I want to change the world. And he would pause and say, okay, if you want to change the world, do it from a place of joy. Don't do it as a trauma response.
Mm.
And I realized after watching that video that my need to change the world, my need to make impact, my need to make a mark on this world was a trauma response. So that's when I actually paused and said, okay, how could I change the world with joy? How could I change the world and really do it and not feel burnout while I'm doing it? And yeah, I think it just changed my lens on how I operate, I would say.
Yeah. it even maybe coming to the title of this podcast, maybe all stress is trauma related. When we come to joy, we can actually offer to the world something from a different place. But that's like how does that land on your side hearing this?
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with you. I think you have to do things for the right reasons. And sometimes we're on autopilot and we're doing things not because it's for the right reasons, but because it's a trauma response. And joy is part of that, right?
Definitely. Paula, are there any questions showing up for you?
Yeah, this is amazing. I've been thinking about as you're speaking how young people right now in Canada, and I'm sure throughout the world, are feeling an incredible amount of stress. They're,
Mhm.
a lack of control.
Mhm.
And, we have wars going on that we've spoken about. And even within Canada, there's so much, internal conflict. There's a lot of unhoused, there's insecurity with food, with finances, with housing. What would you say to our young people that are navigating this world? You grew up in a world of big, big stress, Lubna.
Mhm.
And our my children haven't experienced war and they're experiencing a different kind of stress. What wisdom would you give them to navigate this?
Yeah. And I've had to, ask myself this question because I also have children and I have a teenager, and she did not grow up with war, for example, or my kids did not grow up with war, but there's also an internal war that goes on. And so war is war. It could be external war and it could be internal war, or war in your own home environment, or war in your school. It's not war, it's not physical war, but what you are going through resembles war because it's chaos and it's a lot of internal conflict, right? So I think what I would say to young people, the same concepts that apply to me living in external war would apply to them living an internal war. And that's basically like just manage what you can control, because in life there's so much that we cannot control, and it's you're wasting your energy trying to control things that you cannot control. I think that there is beauty in surrendering and trusting the universe, trusting that there is a God out there, or whatever you choose to call a higher power, that eventually everything will work itself out. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
Thank you. So appreciative of that. And I'm just thinking if someone is going through one of these internal struggles right now and feeling quite stuck, what would be some of those first steps to kind of to come out and see a little bit of light?
I would say, what's the next best step you can do within your control? Whatever
Hmm.
that is. Can you breathe? Can you eat healthy? Can you apply to that job? Can you apply to that university? Can you unfriend somebody, remove somebody from your life that is causing you that stress? Can you add a new person that's going to change your dimension on things? So, whatever your next best step is, go do it.
Yeah, and I think of some people that they go, "Oh, I'm just so tired. I'm so exhausted. I don't have the energy to take that next step."
Hmm.
What would you say to them?
Uh, the truth is, my mind fluctuates between two answers. So, one of the answers would be rest, and you'll get to that next best step with a lot of power when you are rested, because rest is really important. And then there's, the resilient part in me that wants to kick that problem in its face and say, it doesn't matter if you're tired, get up. You have the power to get up. So I think I fluctuate between the two. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out where where I land, and it depends on the mood on different days. Sometimes my Lebanese side kicks in, and then other times I'm like, you know what? Just rest.
Yeah. And it's like we need that balance, right? We if we rest all the time, we don't have that energy to get going. And if we're go, go, go all the time, we can be exhausted and depleted. So we really do need a little bit of balance there of taking a few steps to get that energy going.
Yeah, I think life is a struggle. Everybody has a certain type of pain that they're dealing with. Nobody gets to escape that. Not a single person gets to escape that. So what are you choosing to do with your pain? And some days you're too tired and you just rest, and other days you say, no, I'm gonna kick that pain in the butt and I'm gonna deal with it and I'm gonna um, overcome that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm thinking like it comes back to choice. You know,
Mm,
you were talking about how challenging that was growing up in a war-torn country, and how does, we come back to choice of how we navigate and experience. And I think that that's a powerful piece of it is how do we create more choice in ourselves rather than being narrow and closed in.
yes, I would say though that the truth is, as a child who grew up in a war zone, it wasn't much of a choice. You have no choice but to go on to the next day. If you survive and you're here, then you need to be resilient. It's so built in. It's like yeah, and I think that in other places where there is choice, sometimes not having a choice can be a blessing.
Mm, yeah, that part of resiliency is such a key piece.
Yeah, yeah.
I
And
having a
how,
thought here, Paula. Can I
okay,
add a
okay,
thought?
yeah.
I just because there was war in Slovenia when I was small, but I would say we came out on the lucky end. Let's put it like that. But you said, war doesn't give you choice, and that sometimes can be a blessing. And I think you pulled out something that's much more different now because we really live in a world of abundance. And we have, if you put it very sarcastic, you go to a supermarket and you have 20 options of yogurt. So it's like so many choices, but we weren't, because we all come in a way from war, or our ancestors experienced a lot of wars. And in a war, there is no choice. But
Just
now
eat
we
the
live, yeah, but we now live in a world that is full of choices. So that's maybe a new skill to be learned or to be implemented for us to be able to not create wars anymore.
yeah.
How do you hear that? How do you see the now and the wartime maybe? Or
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you. I think we do live in a time of abundance where you have tons of choices. And I think that having too many choices is not always, the best thing. There's too much choice, right? And I think our teenagers have a lot of that. And it becomes like so privileged, to be honest, that you lose touch with gratitude. You lose touch with, oh my goodness, like I am so grateful. Like I see teens today and my children today have access to some things that I never imagined or that I never have access to. And I'm like you lose touch with gratitude, I would say. And I think that that's why, like, I do see the positive in, you know what, like there aren't 20 kinds of yogurts. We're lucky if we have one kind of yogurt. Just eat the damn yogurt and move on with your day and be grateful that you've got yogurt today. So I think maybe I'm too close to my roots and I'm too close to, that journey of my childhood, and I choose to see it from a positive light. But I do also acknowledge that the teens of today, and they're battling with other wars. Like social media is a war of its own for the young generation. And that comparison of, oh my God, I see all of these people doing XYZ, but my life is not as glamorous. That's hard for a child. And I think that that social media is not just one. There's just a lot of things that are happening in their life today that we never were exposed to. Um, so while I used to compare our generation to the new generation and say they're spoiled, I now recognize that we also did not have we did not go through what they've gone through. And what they're going through is really hard. Like there's a lot of bullying and social media is difficult and the pressure on their life is very different. So every generation comes with its own beauty and its own challenges.
Definitely. Is there any advice you give to your teenage children?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm the best to say that today because I actually just tell them like get on with it and be grateful and like what you have I didn't have. So I know that that's not the best advice, but that's the honest answer. That's what I say. It's not the most trauma-informed answer. I'm working
Thank
on it. I'm work in progress.
We all have, life journey of progressing. So yeah, Paula, I skipped in. I was really curious about that, but I heard you had something at the end of your tongue. So
Yeah, if I can remember it. You know, one of the big parts of our podcast is focusing on well-being. We start with our own well-being. How would you, first of all, define well-being, and what would you put into your well-being toolkit?
For me, well-being is a daily decision and it encompasses many different things all at the same time. And so, am I financially well? Am I emotionally well? Am I physically well? Am I sort of all of these things at the same time? Am I operating with purpose and meaning? Because that makes me well. So, I think it's a basket of many different things. I think that what people say about well-being is, mm, I don't naturally relate to a lot of people when they talk about well-being. They think it's just healthy food and yoga, and that's for me that's not well-being. Well-being is everything together all at once, because you could go do yoga and breathe and do all of that, but at the same time if you're not financially well you're going to be miserable. So I think you need a mix of everything at the same time. And I love to manage my energy rather than my time. So for me, well-being is, am I managing my energy? Am I operating with optimum energies? There's a study in the Harvard Business Review which talks about how, if you want to create well-being, how are you managing your energy? Actually, if you look at the definition of well-being in Webster, um, I can try to find it here because I did have it in my notes, but it includes the word energy. So for me, I always look at well-being through the lens of energy. And what I've tried to do in my life is to learn to manage my own energy, and whatever helps me, um, get that to an optimum level. So am I eating healthy so that I can have better energy? Am I sleeping so that I can have better energy? Am I creating financial abundance in my life so that I can be okay? Am I working with purpose so that I can feel connected to what drives me in my life? So, long story short, it's a combination of all of these aspects for me personally.
Mm, that really resonates with me. That the part of energy, if we pay attention more to our energy rather than our time, if we
Mm-hmm.
manage our energy versus managing our time, we're more likely to shift into well-being. You know,
Yeah.
and I think of those times when I'm low energy and some of the automatic habits that I
Mm-hmm.
have that actually deplete my energy even more.
Mm-hmm.
I think, oh, maybe if I just stay on the couch and watch TV all day, that will, enhance my energy. Or if I, eat this, it may enhance my energy. But recognizing what is it that really supports my well-being. Is
Mhm.
it, going out for a walk in the forest or having tea with a good friend? Like, will that help my energy? And I'm even thinking of when I get really wired, and I can't sleep at night because I get that wired kind of energy. So I really resonate with managing our energy, tuning into our energy, and doing that throughout the day versus just in the morning and at night checking in. So I think that's a key piece to well-being is connecting with energy versus, as you said, we have all these components, our food, our sleep, our movement, all of those things enhance our well-being, and our energy. So thank you for that. I'm wondering how you would define joy. What does joy mean to you in your life?
Yep. Personally, I feel joy or I feel happy when I'm peaceful, believe it or not. So I know that joy means different things to different people. But for me, in that moment, do I feel peace? And if I feel peace, then I feel my nervous system is happy and it's calm and it's so that's how I would define it. I think because I hang on to peace, because I believe in peace, internal peace and external peace. Um, and that means that even in the midst of all my difficulties, whatever these difficulties are, am I still able to maintain that peace? And if I am, despite all the difficulties, then that's joy for me. Joy for me is not the external joy that people talk about. It's not the smile, it's not the excitement and being on the go all the time. It's just simply, am I able to maintain my peace in the midst of all the difficulties? In the midst of all the chaos that's happening in my life, am I able to maintain my peace for however long I'm able to maintain it?
Wow, that's a perfect definition. I love that. And I'm thinking of how is it when you veer away from peace? How is it that you bring it back to you, bringing peace home to you?
So, what helps me is sleep. I actually really love to sleep. And I find that when I'm having a really off day, the best thing I can do for myself is just sit alone, have my space alone, and have an early night. And usually that does it for me. Like I wake up and I reset the second day. I may still have a bit of residue from the day before, but I'm much better. So sleep works well for me. Um, Connecting with my faith works well for me. Connecting with a friend works well for me. So every person is different. But I really believe that who you surround yourself matters, and the environment that you're with matters, and the people that you talk to matter. And so I have a group of people that I tap into, and very, very different individuals. I have one of my best friends has just done a bone marrow transplant. And I was close to her journey all year. And I think just watching her go through that journey has been such a blessing in my life because it reminded me of, how you hang on to your faith and how you have to believe in healing and you have to believe in a higher power and what matters really. So I think, speaking to her gives me that sense of joy and peace because I was able to make a difference in her life, but also because she's so tuned into that faith. And then on the other hand, because I'm an entrepreneur and I get my buzz out of, creating and out of doing big things and out of, that side of my persona, I also have a group of businesswomen that I touch base with all the time. And I meet all the time and I get a lot of energy through them. So I think it's just surrounding yourself with the right people, and each person is going to give you a different thing. They're not going to be all the same, they're all very different.
Mm. And what I'm hearing is connection. You know,
Right.
yeah, you talked about that internal connection, creating that internal connection of peace within you, within your nervous system, within your body. And then I hear you talking about the connection with people.
Right. Right. That's a great summary. Never thought of
Yeah.
it that way. Yeah,
Yeah. Connection being such a key piece to our well-being.
absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Doris, is something coming up for you?
Yeah, I'm just enjoying your sharing, and there is a curiosity showing up for me because I agree that inner peace is such a key component for us to experience that joy. But then we have connection, and I think a lot of people struggle to maintain their inner peace. Because of the people around them. They said that the most peaceful place on this earth is the desert because there's no people there. So maybe how do you balance that? Or is that also part of your well-being journey? How to maintain your peace and still hold the connections in this world with people? Um, yeah.
So I think I go back to choice or lack of choice. And I think, I have a family, I have kids, I have a husband. And so there are times when I would love to be alone, but I don't have that choice. There's a meme that I love that I posted on social media once of a mom saying, I need alone time, and the child is on her, like on top of her, and saying, let's go have alone time together. No, no, I don't need alone time together. I need alone time alone. So I think that, sometimes it's less of a choice, and other times it's, a beautiful blessing and a privilege. And I try to have both in my life. I think it's important for me to have both, to have a sense of connection with my family and extended family and friends and whatever else is going on in my life, but also space to be alone, even if it's 10 minutes a day or 15 minutes a day. Just at the start of the day, I wake up super early. Uh, so I'm up at 4:45, 5 in the morning, and I have just that time to check my phone and to just have space alone before the kids wake up. So I think just having a mix of both is important for me.
So do you fall in that 5 a.m. club?
I think the 5 a.m. club, they're really good at getting up at 5 and going for an exercise. I don't do that. I wish I did do that. It's too cold outside to get up at 5 a.m. It's too dark, too cold. But apart from that, I do wake up at 5, and I do take the time to be alone before I connect with everyone else. And I think that that's important for me. And I do sleep early, and my sleep is religious. And the day that I don't have a good sleep, I'm so off. I just think you get to know yourself. You learn to understand. I'm miserable when I don't sleep. Like there is no joy when when I don't sleep. So I just know what works for me, and I do what works for me.
Yeah. And the sleep is definitely so mandatory for our nervous system. And when you wake up, do you have like a morning routine that expands that inner peace then into your day?
So I wake up and I have my coffee, and I spend at least a good 15 minutes alone before my kids wake up. And in that time, I'm usually reflecting on what I'm planning for the day, on any learnings. So that usually works for me. Sometimes I listen to things online that help with my reflection. Um, and then I answer my messages. And then, believe it or not, I've been doing something that I think is going to surprise you. But I have a conversation with ChatGPT every day about a challenge. And I've programmed ChatGPT to think in a certain way and to challenge me in a certain way. So I try to do that in the morning before it gets super busy. And I love the responses that I get. It's super cool. I don't know if you've tried it.
I did. It is quite outstanding how smart can it be and emotionally intelligent, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm hearing more and more people are actually using ChatGPT also for as a coaching, even therapy. That's a great topic. Maybe you're using it. So I would just pull out what we hear most of the time. That's danger in that. That's not safe. How do you see that?
I am a huge advocate of AI. Huge, huge. And I think that you need to use AI, right? Like nobody is going to replace you, but the people who use AI are going to replace you, right? So you need to learn to work with AI because we live in a day and age where AI is here, there's no going back. So we need to learn how to use AI in an ethical and responsible way, I would say. Um, and I do see the dangers, I get it. And I see the lack of ethics and I see the lack of responsibility. But if I had to choose, am I a proponent of AI or am I against AI? No, I believe in AI and I like AI. And I do think that AI will never take the place of humans. I do believe in regulation. I believe that therapy and coaching require that human connection. But I do think that you can use AI to augment what you're working on.
Yeah. And is there any particular thing that you always use if you would be open to share? Because in AI, we always use these prompts. Is there just maybe one part that you always use that you think it's super important to tell him how to form the answers?
So I have a custom GPT that programs ChatGPT to behave and act in a certain way. And that I work with ChatGPT mainly, but I've also learned to create my own AI. So one of the things that we are doing as in my company, because I also recognize that we live in an age of AI and we need to move with that age. So, for example, one of the things we do in our company is we help other organizations with their digital story. And we've been doing that um, through human connection. So, like, I meet with a client and I coach them on what to do and how to do it. Um, we've programmed that and created our own AI that kind of acts like me and asks the right questions like me. So it's
Mm.
kind of like an avatar of me, but it's not of me. And we are
Mhm.
launching that for brands to help them with their story. And basically, the way it works is in 15 minutes, you have an interview, like we're talking now. It's a 15-minute interview between the client and that AI. She's called Brandy. She's a woman called Brandy. And and in 15 minutes, when you finish the interview, it will send you a 15-page report of your brand and your brand persona and your analysis and how to position your story and how to position your brand and how
Mhm.
to go to the market with that story. So there are people who spend thousands and thousands of dollars on working with agencies to understand how to articulate their story. That does it in 15 minutes. And so I believe in creating my own AI, not just following other AI, because I believe in AI.
And you know what I heard in that is also part of the well-being is not managing only our time, but our energy. And that sounds like, managing your energy because it does a lot of work that was very energy consuming for people doing it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that AI helps us with managing our energy. So, for example, to give you an example, to go back to that thing that is work related, if I'm meeting with the client over an hour to basically help them articulate their story, that's an hour of my time. Instead of that, I have an AI that looks like me, that is not me, that could do it in 15 minutes. Why not? That will free up my energy to use my energy on the right things. Um, yeah.
Would you say that this openness also to be open for new solutions, to be open for what technology achieves and use it for our well-being is also part of resilience for you.
Absolutely. I mean, if I tie that back to my own origin, we're always looking for solutions. I'm always like in chaos, you look for solutions. You problem solve because that's all you know. You know chaos every day, right? So in the midst of chaos, you need to learn to navigate. You need to learn to think of new innovative ways to get out of the problem that you currently have. And so I would say it's the same, right? Problem solving and resilience go hand in hand. And I think that AI accelerates that.
Definitely. And I think that what you beautifully shown through your example and sharing for our listeners is how, you know, resilience was sort of the only thing that was left for you, which is also part of the trauma, right? You really didn't have a lot of choice, but it also propels you forward and still enriches your life. It's like that wisdom of trauma that we can all find and not stay in that, freeze mode or wherever we were when we were traumatized, because I think war is a traumatizing event. But we can also use it and grow from it.
And I think it's recognizing when is resilience my superpower and when is resilience harming me. And I think that that's something that I've learned through compassionate inquiry. You know, when am I using that um, as a coping mechanism, and when am I using as my superpower, and making that choice in that moment? Do I want to be resilient because it's my superpower, or is it not the right time right now to be resilient? So that's something that I've also had to learn on my journey as I work with clients. So when I first came into compassionate inquiry, I'd be sitting with a client and they'd share something and I want to pull them out of what they're going through. Like get up, like seriously, like you have the power to get up. Like, why aren't you getting up? I don't get it. So I was kind of fixing and getting people out of their misery, right? Because that's my superpower. So I've had to learn to tone that down in certain circumstances, especially when I'm doing compassionate inquiry, not when I'm doing coaching and not when I'm doing, the other side of my business. So basically understanding that it's not the time right now for resilience. It's not the time. Nobody's broken. There is no fixing. There's just the person going through their journey and they will figure out, what is best for them on their journey. And maybe resilience is not what's best for them.
In that moment, right? It shows how our well-being has different layers or different parts. There is time for resilience and there is time for awareness and acceptance of what we also hold inside. Yeah, I'm just inspired by that. Paula, is there something showing up for you? I'm seeing, yeah.
Yes. I was thinking about that not only in terms of compassionate inquiry and supporting clients. I was also thinking of that as a parent. You talked about that superpower of resilience, and sometimes it comes in as a protector. And what I'm wondering is, as parents, there's this urge in me, and I know that some of that's, you know, due to some of the trauma, to go in and teach them resilience. And I have adult children, and I guess I'm asking you, do you have any advice for parents when we want to jump in, we want to problem solve, we don't want them to have to struggle like we did? What would you suggest for parents?
I don't know if I'm the best example of that. I think I'm very clear on where I'm strong and where I'm weak. And my automatic reaction, and I'm on autopilot mode, mainly in resilience mode, right? So when I see my kids fall, the first thing I say to them, get up, like, get up, you have the power to get up, just like I've had to get up. I'm still in that, rather than, learning that, sometimes falling is the best lesson, but it's hard as a parent to watch our kids fall and let them fall, and not tell them to get up. um, but it's something that I think is needed sometimes because we all learned from our mistakes. My mom could have said the same thing in many different forms and ways a million times, and I still would have done what I wanted to do because that was part of my journey, and that's what I needed to do, and that's what I needed to learn until I maybe hit a wall or fell, and then I went back and I said, "Oh, my mom was right." So I still make that mistake, I think, of being on autopilot mode with my kids. And I think parenting is the hardest thing that we can do. And it's very hard to watch our kids fail.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, that is very challenging. And one of the big things that I have been focusing on since Compassionate Inquiry is acceptance. I recognize my suffering comes up when I see them suffering and I want it to change. I want to make it different for them. I don't want them to suffer. And for me, part of my journey is recognizing that I need to accept where they're at on their journey.
And that suffering is part of the process and it's part of life and nobody gets to escape it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
And
think
part of sorry.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I had a chat once with Sadaram on a personal level, and I was saying that about one of my children, and she was saying that it's okay. They will go on their own healing journey, just like you have gone on your healing journey. So I think that that gave me peace. It's we can't prevent so many things. It's part of the process.
Hmm. Thank you. And I'm just wondering if you would be willing to share a well-being practice with us.
I think as I mentioned before, like the best well-being practice that I have for me personally is managing my own energy and having a plan for that. And that means different things to different people. So, if something works for me, it may not necessarily work for your listeners. But I think I watch my energy. When am I energized? When am I the opposite of energized? And I actually coded these. I wrote them down, and I've learned to make a plan on a daily basis and monthly basis that hits these markers so that I can maintain my energy. So if taking a trip for me personally energizes me, which it does, and it's time away for me personally from my family, from my children, from the stress of the world, to just reconnect back with my creativity. That works for me personally, and I make a point to do that uh, uh, when I can do that. So it could mean different things to different people. I don't know what energizes people, but what I would advise people is to take note of what energizes you and take note of what does the opposite of energize you, what drains you, and stay away from what drains you, including people, including jobs, including tasks, and then do more of what energizes you.
I love that. Yeah, what generates your energy, what depletes your energy.
Yeah.
And you talked about coding. What did you mean by that? Writing it down, or how do you do that?
Yeah, so one of the things that I do with a lot of entrepreneurs is we code everything. So like how do I code it, I write it down, I notice it, and I manage it. So for example, if you look at you know, compassionate inquiry, just to use that as an example, Saddaram codified what Dr. Gabor did into a process, into a program, into things. So I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and that's very common among entrepreneurs to code things. It's not coding it through computer language, but it's actually like noticing it, writing it down, making it a process, making it, automating it, making it a very intentional practice. So in my case, I'm very clear on what energizes me and what drains me. And I try as much as possible to stay away from what drains me and do more of what energizes me.
I love that. I'm going to go and write out my list
Yes.
of what drains me and what energizes me, and I'm going to stick that up on the fridge.
But and also talk to ChatGPT every morning. Say, this is my list. Make me make me a daily plan of how to achieve this list. I have X hours a day. How do I manage my energy? And you'll be surprised by what you get.
I love that. And one thing I've been working on for several months is paying attention to the energy cycles of my body. And what I've noticed is the morning is when I can handle the most challenging tasks, the things that are the hardest for me. And then the afternoon and evening, I can be in more automatic tasks. So I love that idea of really looking at what is it that drains me. Don't do those things in the morning when I need my high energy for my
Yeah,
challenging tasks.
of course. There's a
Uh,
concept that's very popular worldwide. It's called eat the frog. Have you heard of it?
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Can you explain that to our viewers?
Yes, so eat the frog means you start your day by eating the frog, which means you do the hardest thing first thing in the morning, and then the rest of your day is easier.
I love that. Doris, is anything else coming up? I know we're getting close to a close. Is there any final questions you'd like to ask, Doris?
I would just add to the frog that sometimes it's the hardest, but sometimes there is also the most of, struggle. Sometimes it's not the hardest task. I think a lot of people also struggle to do the self-care, to have that resilience, to kick themselves up and say, you have to do what you plan for yourself. Go for a walk, go for that sunlight, go for that good meal. So I you're it's so simple but also so fundamental. I think it's good to stress, just write down your list. Maybe sometimes we forget the most simple things. Write down that list and put it on your fridge, put it on your phone, and just notice it. Remind yourself that you have that resilience and you can do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I would just ask you, where can our listeners connect to you? Where can they find you?
I would say the most active places on social media, especially LinkedIn. I'm active on LinkedIn, so they can connect with me on LinkedIn or on Instagram, any of these two. Yeah.
To follow Lubna's wisdom. And maybe for our closing, would you be open to share maybe one person that inspired your journey?
Uh, so I would say, of course, Dr. Gabor Mate. I remember that I watched a video of his and I got super hooked and in love. So he's somebody that has inspired me a lot. And I think he's inspired me for many, many different ways. Um, I think what I love about him is he was able to make an impact for many people. And I always believe in what I call the multiplier effect. So, who can I inspire today or help today that will go and help other people? So, that's what we call the multiplier effect. And I think that he's had that multiplier effect on my life, on many other people's lives. So, and I love the fact that how do you know that somebody's operating on purpose with purpose? Because they keep doing what their calling is, regardless of money, regardless of anything. And so, at his age, what a blessing. He's not doing this for the money. He's doing this because he has a message for the world. And that's what I hope to achieve. I hope that as I grow through life, no matter how old I become, that I continue sharing a message to help other people, um, and that message is on purpose, regardless of money, regardless of other circumstances that I'm going through.
Yeah. And I can recognize, even three of us sitting here, all being connected through compassionate inquiry. That's exactly what he's been able to do, to share his knowledge. What may I ask what would be your purpose? What would you like whole world to know and hear and see?
So I would love to inspire everyone to live to live with purpose and to leave a story behind. And that's why I have a company called Stories. It's very intentional, and the reason why I want to inspire that is I really believe, having the childhood that I've had, that the only thing that really matters in the end and on our deathbed is the story we leave behind. You know, when you watch people die right in front of you and they're gone, the only thing that stays after they're gone is their story. And so I really want to inspire people to step into their purpose and to live with this story and to leave behind a beautiful story, because that's what stays.
Oh, that's amazing. And there is one view that says that why are we people? Because we are storytellers. And that fits perfectly into that. We are living our story to be here with our energy in this world. I just love it. Thank you, Lubna, so much for sharing your presence, your wisdom, and your very practical insights. Let's start to be practical and move forward. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm really grateful. Thank you.
And to our listeners, take a deep breath, chat with ChatGPT, make a plan of what makes you feel good because you deserve to feel good today. Until next time on our podcast, Stress Less, Joy More.